Hello everyone, this is Taylor Edrington with Royal Gorge Anglers in Canon City, Colorado. This is a video report for the Arkansas River drainage focusing on the section in Canon City as well as through Bighorn Sheep Canyon to the Salida area. We have now finished up our runoff cycle. The river is beginning to clear very nicely. In fact, fishing has been productive for the past several days, and we have up to 36 inches of clarity on the edges, even down in the Canon City area. So we expect fishing to really pick up rapidly. Like I said, the last several days have been extremely productive on big flies. Right now we're looking at a CFS level of 900 CFS in the Granite area, as well as 1300 plus CFS in the Wellsville gauge. That should incrementally decrease to the 800 to 1200 CFS range in the next few days. We expect that based on flow decreases out of our contributing tailwaters, as well as a major decrease in native flow above the Granite area coming down from Fremont snowfields as well as Brumley snowfields. So we're going to have some excellent fishing today and throughout the month of June from this point forward. And primarily focusing on big flies, streamers, stoneflies hatching right now. Should see PMDs and yellow sallies begin to hatch. We've already seen a few bugs on the water, but that will only increase as time goes on. And so really focusing on fishing the edges right off the grass, to about 3 feet off the edge. Cool thing about the fishing during this time period is it is like fishing in a barrel. All of the fish are stacked against the shoreline from heavy runoff conditions, more structure on the shorelines, and so that's typically where we see the majority of the fish hanging until we bump down below that 800 CFS level. Then fish start to move back to standard feeding lies and standard structure that we would see before runoff and in the later months in the summer. So this is really a time period to take advantage of as an angler. The fish are, all pretty much together and really close to the shoreline and feeding voraciously. The idea is that the fish have spent about 3 weeks just hanging on for dear life, not feeding very actively because the water's off color and moving a lot of debris through the river, etc. So at this point, fish are just playing catch up, really feeding on anything that hits the water, anything that gets in front of them. Just so happens that the stonefly hatch is occurring simultaneously. Stoneflies do crawl up on the rocks on the edges of the river and hatch. Just so happens to be in the right place, right where the fish are. So we recommend, big stonefly drives, stonefly nymphs, and some small attractor droppers, focusing on PMD, stoneflies, and some other attractor nymphs. Also streamers. Typically, I don't recommend people to wade heavily during this time period, although there are certain stretches on the Arkansas that are still easy to wade at about 1,000 CFS. I recommend people to wet wade, maybe use some waist-high waders, and don't get in, over where you're comfortable. Typically, just because the fish are stacked on the shoreline, there's no need to really wade much. Fishing heavily on the south shoreline, maybe dropping some casts from where you're comfortable to the north shoreline. But, even throwing on a pair of hiking boots or wet wading, throwing on some wet wading socks and wading boots, and just walking the shorelines is typically the best idea and best tactic during this time period. Fishing streamers, typically I'll fish downstream, so I'll start above a section that I feel is a good holding section for fish, cast into the meat of the river from the shoreline, throw some ends in it, let it sink, let it sweep across the water column, and let it get into their zone, which, like I said, is 3 feet to the shoreline. Maybe even make a downstream mend to pull that fly a little bit tighter to the bank and let it hang there, then retrieving your streamer back up the bank. Typically when these streamers, and still going with double streamer rigs as usual on this river, when the streamers get in the fish's zone, they are right on top of it. You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary to entice them. Just get it in their zone, make a few casts in an area, take a few steps down the bank again, and just move down that section that you've picked out. As far as fishing dries and droppers, dry dropper rig or just single dry, I will do the complete opposite as streamer fishing. I'll move up a section, fishing upstream, moving upstream and pointing different pockets and structures against the bank and getting those dries and dry droppers in those areas. I really tend to focus on making 2 or 3 casts in an area and then moving, because fish seem to be really stacked up in certain areas, and if you don't get a look or a take on the first cast, typically fish aren't going to be in that area. They will be voraciously feeding, they'll be looking for food, so don't feel like you really need to prospect certain areas more than 3 or 4 casts. I would just keep moving. As far as bugs go, first let's just talk about streamer rigging. Go short leader, maybe 4 to 6 feet, heavy tippet, fluorocarbon definitely, and maybe 3x terminal end to a big streamer. Something rust or yellow or tan is typically my favorite way to go. The Ganga in a rust color, the Space Invader in a tan coloration, tan or yellow like I said up front. Key is going to be heavy for your top fly, very attractive for your top fly. Then throw a variety of patterns, smaller, a little bit less heavy, muddlers, small micro woolly boogers, non-weighted, little conehead woolly boogers, little clousers can be really good as well as a second streamer dropped underneath. Go again about 3 to 4x tippet, maybe 12 foot on your dropper. As far as dries go, and again these dries typically are mimic our stoneflies that are hatching. Basically are just big attractor flies, real buggy looking foam, very visible, and just cover a lot of different variables. Of course you can fish these on their own, or you can throw a dropper underneath them. Typically I'm going to throw a dropper, maybe 16 to 18 inches of 5x tippet, fluorocarbon underneath these dries. On these bigger dries, typically you can get away with 3x to 4x, still 9 foot leaders on those. Great patterns to look at. Tan and yellow tantrums are great patterns, just big stoneflies, foam body, big elk hair wing, very visible, rubber legs. You'll see that throughout all these patterns that I'm showing you, keys being visibility and float very high. Thingamabugs are great, got that little thingamabobber on the top, so very visible as a lead fly for a hopper dropper system. Tan underneath, just an excellent fly. Double Dutch bug, or a crazy hopper or something like that. It's going to be this is a double Dutch bug, kind of a stonefly profile, size 8 to 12. One of my favorites, going to be the pool toy, Andrew Grillis, his pattern, big old, just nasty, buggy, just a great kind of a Chernobyl pattern. Going to be an excellent representation. One of my favorite single dries is an olive, black or yellow 409. Just an excellent pattern, little crystal wing. Can, be a caddis, could be a yellow Sally, could be really anything profile-wise. Floats very high, very visible. Like I said, you can throw a number of droppers underneath these. One of my great producers is a CDC Prince or a Queen Prince. This is a great pattern, one of our kind of customized patterns on this river. You'll pretty much only see at this fly shop. The Guide's Choice Hare's Ear, of course, we tie this in a tungsten. And pretty much typically on these droppers, I'm going, size 14 to 16, sometimes even 12s. Hopper wands, Royal Gorgeous, still another great caddis attractor nymph. John Barr's tongue teaser, as well as size 12 to 14, 20 incher, going to be great little stonefly attractor droppers. Biot epoxy stone is great as well. And then we're starting to get into some PMD nymphs, so Biot PMD emergers and Gold Ice, Larry Kingery's Gold Ice, which is a mainstay on this river. Going to be a good dropper. So there's a few flies to think about. Please do, let us know if you have any questions. Like I said, some great fishing right now, and should be some excellent fishing throughout the end of June as well as into July, with great water, great flows set up for through that time period, and really through the month of August. We're looking at some great flows for this river to keep the river nice and cool, keep our fish happy. But do try to get here in the next couple weeks, as those fish are very easy to find right against the shoreline. Big flies, streamers, a lot of fun. This can be our highest fish number days during the year, and just a great time period to be on this river. If you do have any questions, feel free to give us a call, toll free, 888-994-6743, or shoot us an email at info@royalgorgeanglers.com. We do have a great little casting competition coming up this weekend at the Royal Gorge Whitewater Festival. Come out and support our local economy, which was hit pretty hard by this Royal Gorge fire. The Royal Gorge fire encroached up to 200 feet from the fly shop. We were evacuated last week for 5 business days. It's hit us all pretty hard in this area, so do come support your local favorite fly shop, as well as come down and hang out at our Royal Gorge Whitewater Festival this weekend, the 20th through the 22nd. Thanks so much for viewing, and we look forward to seeing you soon in the fly shop, and please do let us know if you have any questions. Thanks so much, and have a great day on the water.